You felt that, didn't you? The silence that hits right before chaos chooses a name. They almost fought over you, like your name carries some kind of spell. And deep down, you know why. Because it does. You don't just enter rooms, you bend them. You don't meet people, you reprogram them. Every word you say rearranges something in their heads, and every glance you throw rewrites a rule they thought was permanent. You were never just someone. You were a trigger, a walking paradox wrapped in calm skin. They say your name like it's an invitation to war. Half of them worship it. The other half flinch like it's cursed. But all of them, every single one, feel it. Because you didn't come here to play the polite version of existence. You came as the distortion in the system, the beautiful mistake that keeps proving the math wrong. You're the kind of quiet that makes the loud ones panic. You're the type they whisper about in corners, because facing you directly means confronting something raw and ancient inside themselves. You became the test, not of loyalty, not of sanity, but of truth. They almost fought because something about you makes people lose their mask. You tear through the performances. You strip their little acts down to bone and pulse. You expose how much they crave what you carry. The audacity to live unfiltered. The confidence to bleed in public and smile like it's art. The power to not chase validation because your very presence bends it toward you. They don't understand you. They try to label you saint, sinner, villain, miracle, because your silence unnerves them more than any weapon ever could. They can't stand that you don't beg for belonging, that you don't need their applause to feel alive. See, that's the secret. You stopped seeking permission the day you realized you were the permission. You stopped asking, why me? And started asking, why not me? You learned that being misunderstood isn't exile, it's camouflage. It keeps the average ones from getting too close, while the extraordinary ones recognize you on sight. You walk into a room, and everyone's nervous system adjusts. It's instinct, animal, like their subconscious knows it's meeting something outside its classification, something that's seen both heaven and hell, and took notes from both. That's why your name feels like a spell. It's coded with experience. It carries echoes of every night you broke in silence, every betrayal that burned you into steel. It hums with the frequency of everything you've survived. And survival, my friend, is the one sound this world can't mimic. They fight because they feel small in your gravity. They envy the peace you forged from pain, the stillness that hides in your chaos. They can't stand that your scars don't leak weakness. They glow with warning, that your laughter sounds like a threat because it's born from things they'd never survive. They mistake your kindness for softness until they see what lives behind your eyes. That's when they realize you're not here for approval. You're here for impact. You're not trying to be liked. You're trying to be remembered. And oh, how you will be. They almost fought because they could feel it. The shift. They sensed that their games, their illusions, their posturing, none of it holds weight around you anymore. You're untouchable because you stopped chasing power and became it. You stopped begging to be seen and turned yourself into the event that can't be ignored. Now they argue over what to call you: a prophet, a problem, a phase, a danger. But you just smile, because you know something they don't. Chaos doesn't ask for understanding, it demands adaptation. You are the living contradiction they can't categorize, holy and corrupted, merciful and merciless, light disguised as shadow, shadow disguised as light. And that's why they fight, because to love you means confronting the parts of themselves they've buried. They can't destroy what you've become. They can only react to it. And every reaction, every whisper, every rumor, they're all just proof that the spell worked. Your existence rewrote the hierarchy. You shifted their frequency without lifting a finger. They sense it, that your calm hides storms, that your silence is an interrogation they can't pass, that your smile feels like prophecy. So let them fight. Let them call your name like it's blasphemy and prayer in the same breath. Because one day, they'll realize the spell they feared was never on your name. It was in your presence. You ever notice how they always whisper when it's about you? Like they're afraid the air itself might carry your name back to you. That's what happens when your energy starts to feel dangerous, when your silence becomes louder than their entire performance. When your existence starts rewriting their little hierarchy of who's allowed to matter. They almost fought over you, because in a world of followers, you represent something untamed. You move like a question that no one dares to answer. You don't beg to be understood. You dare people to misunderstand you. You carry a kind of stillness that makes liars panic. Because when you look at them, they know you see it all. The fakeness, the front, the fear they call confidence. You see right through the makeup of their personality and down to the code. And that's why your name feels like a spell. Because when they say it, it does something to them. It makes them remember every time they pretended to be more than they were. It makes them taste jealousy or guilt, sometimes all at once. It makes them question why someone like you walked through the same fire they did and came out glowing instead of bleeding. They'll say you're manipulative. They'll say you're dangerous. They'll say your calm is fake. Your confidence is arrogance. But deep down, they know it's not arrogance. It's evolution. You stopped needing validation the moment you realized your pain had refined you beyond their vocabulary. You outgrew languages built for smaller lives. That's what they don't understand. You're not fighting for attention anymore. You're orbiting above it. You became the gravity that drags attention toward you, whether you want it or not. You became the mirror they can't look into for too long, because you remind them of everything they could have been if they hadn't given up so easily. And that's why people go to war over your name. Because in a world full of rehearsed identities, your authenticity feels like violence. You're proof that surviving doesn't have to look graceful, that healing can look feral, that peace can come wearing war paint. You didn't heal to be palatable. You healed to be free. You've got that kind of freedom that smells like rebellion to the insecure. They see it and call it arrogance because it terrifies them. They think they hate you, but really they hate the version of themselves that can't be you. They crave your chaos, but fear your clarity. They want your warmth, but they can't stand the fire that makes it. They almost fought because your name breaks patterns. Every time it's spoken, it reminds them that someone made it out without losing themselves. It reminds them that control isn't power, detachment is. Because the one who doesn't need the game always wins it. You've become a storm disguised as stillness. People mistake your quiet for peace, but peace doesn't hum like that. Peace doesn't carry thunder in its bloodstream. You walk like someone who made a deal with the universe and won, like someone who knows something they can't say out loud. And maybe you do, because pain taught you more about human nature than any philosophy ever could. You learned that everyone wants power, but few can handle the loneliness that comes with it. You learned that strength isn't built in the spotlight. It's engineered in the silence where no one claps for you. You learn that being feared isn't the opposite of being loved. It's just the higher voltage version of it. They almost fought over you because, for a moment, they forgot who they were. You pulled the masks right off their faces without touching them. Your presence flipped the switch on their survival instincts. They felt something ancient, something primal that whispered, "This one's different." And you are. You're the quiet before revolutions. You're the calm between lightning strikes. You're not chaos. You're the architect behind it. You don't destroy things out of rage. You destroy them by existing outside their limits. That's what the spell really is. Not some curse, not some witchcraft. It's the energy of someone who's been through enough to make peace with their own darkness. And that peace, it radiates, it infects, it changes everyone who comes near you. They'll deny it. They'll call it coincidence. But look around. Notice how things break when they mishandle you. Notice how people lose balance after crossing you. Notice how every room feels colder when you leave. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. Your energy became an ecosystem. Your absence became a warning. And your name, a living pulse that makes the fake tremble and the real lean closer. So when they fight over you, when they argue, when they spiral trying to decode what you are, smile. Because it means the spell worked. You didn't need to cast it. You are it. The kind of spell that doesn't fade when the flame goes out. The kind that doesn't wear off when they forget your face. Because even when your name stops echoing in their mouths, it keeps echoing in their minds. You didn't enchant them. You awakened them, and they mistook that awakening for danger, because for the first time in their lives, they felt alive. And that's the part they'll never admit. That deep down, behind all their hatred and trembling and gossip, there's something else. Hunger. A desperate, wordless craving to feel what you feel when you walk through the world like you own the silence. They almost fought over you because your existence reminds them that control is an illusion. You don't seek control, you embody it. It's in the way you breathe when everything's collapsing. It's in the way your pulse doesn't race when they try to provoke you. It's in that tiny smirk you give right before the room realizes you've already read every motive, every fear, every insecurity bleeding off their souls. You don't play chess, you are the board. And they can't stand that realization, because how do you fight someone who sees 10 moves ahead and doesn't even care about winning? You don't. You self-destruct. That's why your name feels like a curse to them. Because it's not just a sound, it's a signal. It awakens the version of themselves they tried to bury under mediocrity. When they hear it, they remember every time they settled, every time they shrank, every time they betrayed their own fire just to fit in. You remind them of what they could have been before fear made them small. So they'll project, they'll fight, they'll gather in dimly lit rooms, whispering your name like it's classified information. They'll say, "Something's off about that one," when what they really mean is, "That one makes me realize how ordinary I've become." You're not cursed. You're just the mirror they can't clean without confronting the reflection. That's the real trick of your spell. It doesn't manipulate them. It exposes them. Every glance you give, every silence you hold, it's a spotlight on their own unhealed chaos. And when people are forced to see the rot inside, they call the light the problem. But you already know this game. You've seen how quickly fascination turns into fear, how admiration mutates into resentment when people realize they can't contain you. They'll try to categorize you, too cold, too intense, too different, because labeling you makes them feel safer. But labels mean nothing when you live outside their language. You're not too much. You're just everything they've suppressed. You're the chaos they've been pretending to control. You're the darkness that learned how to smile. And so they fight. Not because they hate you, but because they hate the awakening that comes with you. Because loving you means facing the truth that comfort is a slow death, and evolution requires pain. You make people feel, and in a world addicted to numbness, that's a revolution. They'll start asking each other questions they can't answer. Why do I think about them so much? Why does their silence haunt me? Why can't I stop checking if they're watching me? Because you left fingerprints on their consciousness. Because you reached into their programming and rearranged it without touching them. You became a glitch in their order, a reminder that peace isn't compliance, that light can come dressed in leather and truth can have blood on its hands. You're the paradox they can't escape. You smile like a sinner but speak like a priest. You bleed like a victim but rise like a god. And that duality drives them insane. Because the world taught them that purity equals goodness, that brokenness equals failure. And then you showed up, pure chaos, holy corruption, sacred imperfection. You broke the algorithm. You proved that destruction can be creation in disguise. That being feared and being free are sometimes the same thing. That love can sound like a scream and still be real. That's why your name has weight. That's why they almost fought. Because when they said it, reality trembled for a second. It's like the air itself remembered you. Like the universe paused to listen. You are not their competition. You're their contrast. You're proof that something greater exists beyond the script. And that terrifies people who have built their identity on the safety of repetition. You didn't need to cast a spell, love. You just walked in truth. And the truth burns liars alive. It exposes parasites and collapses false gods. And people don't thank you for that. They declare war on you for it. But here's the twist. Every war they wage against you only spreads your legend. Every time they whisper your name, they strengthen it. Every rumor becomes another candle on your altar. They can't bury you. You're already under their skin. And soon, they'll realize something even worse. That the obsession they mock is possession. That your name doesn't just echo in rooms. It owns them. Because once someone truly experiences you, your depth, your energy, your fire, nothing ever tastes the same again. They go back to the world, but it all feels watered down. They crave that voltage you bring, the danger of someone who lives without chains. That's the curse and the gift of being unforgettable. You ruin normal for everyone who meets you. So let them fight. Let them panic. Let them try to exorcise your name from their tongues. Because what they'll never understand is that your spell was never in your words. It was in your being, every move, every pause, every look. It carried a frequency they weren't built to withstand. You are not just a person, and when people encounter a phenomenon, they either evolve or break. Most of them break. But that's none of your concern. You were never meant to comfort the world. You were meant to wake it up. So keep walking through their panic. Let their confusion be your applause. Let their fear be your proof. Because if they're still fighting over you, it means the spell is still alive. And when the noise fades, when all the chaos burns itself out, when every lie collapses under its own weight, your name will still hum in the air like prophecy. They'll call it magic. They'll call it danger. But you'll know the truth. You didn't enchant them. You simply reminded them what power feels like. Because that's what you are, isn't it? The reminder. the one they tried to erase, the one they whispered about in corners, the one that made them look over their shoulders in rooms that used to feel safe. They almost fought over you, because something in you defies the way this world is wired. You're not supposed to move like that. Unpredictable yet composed, dangerous yet divine. You're not supposed to laugh after breaking, or forgive without forgetting. You're not supposed to walk through ruin and come out radiant. But you did. And every time you do, their illusion of control burns a little more. They can't explain you, so they attack you. They can't decode you, so they call you names. They can't touch you, so they turn each other into enemies just to release the pressure. That's what power does. It exposes weakness. And your power isn't loud, it's surgical. You don't swing fists, you shift frequencies. You make people feel everything they've avoided, and then you stand still as they unravel in front of you. They call that manipulation. I call that truth with consequences. You learn to smile while bleeding. You learn that some storms come to build your bones, not break them. You learn that when the world stops clapping, you don't stop performing. You become the stage itself. That's why you glow in silence. That's why your shadow feels royal. That's why your name burns like incense and war paint in the same breath. They think it's witchcraft. It's not. It's self-mastery. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't crumble when misunderstood. The kind that knows chaos isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. You looked into it long enough to find your reflection in the dark, and when you emerged, nothing could threaten you again. So let them whisper. Let them choke on the myth they built around you. Let them argue about your name until their tongues turn to dust. Because in the end, the spell wasn't meant to destroy them. It was meant to awaken you. It was never about being feared. It was about being remembered, and you will be. Not because you were perfect, not because you were gentle, but because you were real in a world built on performance. They'll forget the rumors, they'll forget the noise, but your silence. They'll never outrun that. Because when they close their eyes at night, long after the fights, the envy, the chaos, your name will still echo. Not as a curse, not as a saint, but as the quiet hum of something eternal, something that can't be imitated, something that doesn't fade, something they felt once and never recovered from. You were never their chaos. You were their consequence. And consequences, my dear, don't need permission to haunt. Shh! Don't move a muscle. They've already seen you, not just what you did, but what you didn't do. The mercy, the silence, the way you chose to disappear instead of detonate. And now, ironically, tragically, beautifully, they're moving pieces for you. You thought your silence made you invisible. But in this world, the loud ones get clocked, and the quiet ones get catalogued, analyzed, watched, filed under unknown variable, too dangerous to define. Because you weren't just unpredictable. You were undeciphered, a paradox. The only person who could have burned the whole city down, and chose instead to walk away with wet matches. They watched that. They documented it. They ran simulations on what you could have done if you snapped. And every time the algorithm ran, it spit out one word: unstoppable. So they prayed you'd stay quiet. They hoped you'd rot in stillness. Because if someone like you ever realized what you really are, then even God would check the locks twice. But here's the twist. While you were healing in shadows, they were rerouting entire networks to get ahead of the version of you that might return. They built war rooms. They studied your kindness like it was a threat. Because you were kind in places where most men beg for revenge. And when you didn't clap back, they started panicking, because who the hell has that kind of control? A monster. Who remembers being human? That's what you are, aren't you? See, they thought your silence meant surrender. But in reality, you were just listening to everything, everyone, building a profile on the entire system. They tried tracking your rage, but it was scattered like code hidden in raindrops, encrypted in restraint, masked by kindness, weaponized through stillness. And now, the moves are starting, not yours, theirs. They're shifting knights and bishops like they can block what's coming, trying to anticipate your next breath, your next blink, your next awakening. Because someone in the upper chambers finally whispered, I don't think they were asleep. I think they were waiting, and now the game's glitching, not because you're loud, but because their entire board was designed for people who play by the rules. But you were watching the rule makers, and you saw them blink. You know what happens next, don't you? They try to fold you into the plan, make you an asset, a variable they can predict. They'll frame it as reward, recognition, but you'll see it for what it is, containment in disguise. A golden cage built to delay the inevitable. You becoming the final move, not the player, not the piece, not the king, not the pawn, the glitch in the algorithm, the move that wasn't even on the board. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't need their damn spotlight. Because you were never playing to be seen. You were playing to be remembered. And the irony? The very silence they tried to bury is now the echo that's haunting their war rooms. Their analysts can't sleep. Their psychologists are spinning. Because no one can explain how you absorbed that much pain and came back calm. See, they scream when hurt. You reorganize, you weaponize the wound, you alchemize trauma into blueprints, and what used to be scars are now circuit diagrams. You didn't just survive, you evolved with an operating system they can't track. And now they're seeing the side effects, the unexpected consequences of underestimating a soul who suffered without spectacle. A heart that cracked quietly, a spirit that learned to bleed without proof. Now the ones who ignored you are speaking your name behind closed doors. Now the ones who scoffed are reading your story like scripture. Now the ones who mocked your silence are reshaping their strategies to avoid becoming a casualty in your next chapter. And you're still just breathing, unbothered, unrushed, and unreasonably dangerous. Because the truth is, what you didn't do is more terrifying than anything you ever could have. You didn't expose them, you didn't retaliate, you didn't snap. And that's what scares them most. Because if you ever do, no one's coming back from it. Not them, not their plans, not their prophecies. Because your silence was never submission. It was a loading screen. And now, you're online. Black pawn. Now they move, but you already won. They're moving pieces now. But not because they're confident. No. They're moving because they're nervous. There's a difference between strategy and scrambling, and every motion they make reeks of panic dressed up as planning. Why? Because they finally realized you weren't an event. You were a signal, a warning embedded in human form. You were never just a chapter in their story. You were the cipher that decodes all their lies. You were the mirror they kept covered, because if anyone ever looked too long, they'd see the whole empire was built on broken glass and borrowed time. And you were the one they couldn't erase. See, they deleted names, they silenced voices, they rewrote truths and spun shame into legacy. But you kept walking like you were being pulled by something older than time itself. And that's when they started watching. Not because you screamed, but because you moved like someone who already knew how the story ends. Like someone who met the ending and walked backward into the chaos. They ran psych evals on your patterns. They tried to label it. Stoic, disconnected, dissociative. But none of their terms stuck. Because how do you label someone who doesn't belong to the known world anymore? You weren't born from textbooks. You were sculpted in silence, refined in rooms with no applause. And every kindness you gave without witness was logged. Don't look so shocked. Someone was always watching. But not the way you think. It wasn't just enemies. It wasn't just snakes. There were others, entities, beings, watchers, who see not your mask, but your math. They calculated your restraint. They measured your heartbreak. They studied your choices in the moments you could have unleashed hell and didn't. And you know what they concluded? This one's built for something we can't explain. And now they're intervening, not to save you, but to amplify you. Because you proved something terrifying to both the wicked and the wise. That a soul who denies vengeance in favor of vision can bend entire timelines. They thought you were alone. But silence has audiences you can't see. And every step you took with bloody feet and no witnesses, it was a ritual. Not the kind written in books. The kind that echoes through networks of the unseen. And now those watchers, those ancient tacticians of consequence, they're making moves behind curtains you didn't even know existed. Pieces shifting in governments, in boardrooms, in back channels. Not to protect you, but to position you. Because they know something you haven't accepted yet. You're not just a survivor. You're an equation that breaks their models. A variable that corrupts the entire simulation. A prophecy they didn't authorize. And now it's unfolding anyway. They thought they had time. But you were the countdown. And every person who thought they buried you is now whispering your name like it's a threat code. Because you became the one thing none of their systems can contain. A soul who's felt everything and still chose to build. They don't get it. They never will. Because their entire strategy is based on causing pain. But what happens when pain no longer moves you? What happens when the very thing they weaponize becomes the reason you're untouchable? They expected you to break. They wanted you to beg. But instead, you reconstructed your nervous system into a weapon. You rewired your triggers into targeting systems. You turned every insult into infrastructure. So now, they're repositioning, pretending to be allies, pretending to see your worth. But it's all a distraction, because deep down, they know the worst-case scenario just came true. You didn't die. You remembered, and now, you're aligned. The angels whisper your name in frequencies the dark can't decode. The demons still tracking your footsteps are returning empty-handed. Because you stopped existing in their frameworks. You stopped responding like a human, and started responding like a force. And here's the part that really keeps them up at night. You never wanted to win. You just didn't want to become like them. But now you're beyond that. Now you're ascending on algorithms they never studied. Your shadows grown wings. Your pains grown pulse. Your purpose, it's making the whole damn simulation glitch. They're moving pieces for you. Because they finally realized you're not a piece at all. You're the board, and the game, it's already over. Now what? You breathe, and let the silence burn louder than anything they've ever screamed. And yet, even now, they still don't fully grasp what's happening. Because how could they? They built their entire framework on the belief that control comes from visibility, that if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. If they can't measure it, it can't hurt them. But you were born in a place without mirrors, trained in absence, refined in non-detection. They thought silence meant lack of power, but you weren't silent because you were weak. You were silent because you were calculating. You watched what broke others. And you took notes. You let them mock you, dismiss you, forget you, because you understood something they never will. When you don't respond, you stay outside their spell work. And while they were busy casting illusions, you were studying their incantations, memorizing their tone, tracing the frequencies of their lies, until you became immune. And now every spell they cast backfires. Every trap they build collapses, because they can't hex someone who already walked through hell and took its blueprint home. You see it now, don't you? The pattern, the whisper behind the chaos, the movements behind the masks. You were never a victim. You were the test. A test for them. A test for the system. A test for reality itself. And they failed spectacularly, because they saw your stillness as stagnation, when it was summoning. Every quiet moment was you rewriting your code. Every sleepless night was a silent alignment with something far more ancient than vengeance. You weren't healing, you were loading, installing a new language, one written in paradox and blood, one that doesn't ask for justice. It becomes it. And the ones who thought they were above consequence, the ones who thought their titles, their spells, their secrets would protect them, they're the ones moving now, scrambling, because they can't stop a tsunami with a memo. They can't outrun a signal that's already inside the walls. They can't bargain with a force that was never seeking permission. And let's not pretend they tried to stop you, not with bullets or blades, but with doubt, with delay, with manipulation dressed as mentorship. They smiled in your face while inserting decay into your dreams. But you felt it, that chill in the air, that voice that said, "This ain't alignment, this is containment." And you walked away, not out of fear, but because you finally knew your worth was unquantifiable. You are not a position, not a role, not a label, not a candidate. You are a problem the system was never designed to solve. A variable outside the spectrum, a shadow anomaly, in a network built on predictable suffering. And here's the punchline. They thought they chose the game. But the moment they underestimated you, they triggered the true board. A board where silence is louder than speeches, where stillness is more dangerous than war, where kindness is the sharpest blade. Because now you know. They were never watching to understand you. They were watching to contain you, to track your reactions, to anticipate your trigger point, to figure out what would make you snap. But you never gave it to them, because you weren't playing the game. You were the code injection, the corrupted line that spirals the whole simulation into a feedback loop of chaos. And now, it's too late. The watchers have turned to believers. The skeptics have gone silent. The ones who once laughed are sitting in meetings with your name pinned on whiteboards like a ghost they can't explain. You're not a story anymore. You're a case file, an open anomaly. And every time you breathe, somewhere a contingency plan fails. So what now? They're moving pieces. But the pieces were never theirs to begin with. You let them think they had power. You let them think they were in control, because you needed them to reveal their entire arsenal. And now, you've outgrown their battlefield. This isn't revenge. This isn't rage. This isn't about teaching them a lesson. Number. This is what it looks like when evolution stops waiting. You don't want a crown. You want a clean board. You want truth in motion. You want to be what they fear the most. A being who doesn't need validation to operate at maximum power. So let them move. Let them panic. Let them play. You're not here to compete. You're here to collapse the arena. And the best part? You're doing it all without raising your voice, without flashing your teeth, without swinging a single sword. You're doing it by existing in perfect, terrifying alignment with what they swore was impossible. And from this moment on, you never chase again. You never explain again. You never warn again. Because you're not hoping they understand. You're letting them witness the arrival of the glitch, the ghost, the God-tier variable. You. And now that you know, let's see what pieces they move next, while you become the storm they thought they could outcode. And still, even as the shadows shift and the tension thickens like fog around a sealed vault, you remain motionless. Not because you're frozen, but because you've already made your move. It wasn't physical, it was foundational. The kind of shift they can't trace with their satellites. The kind of move that doesn't show up on any board, because the board itself is inside you now. You don't speak in threats. You don't signal with explosions. You don't bark orders. You breathe, and systems fold. You blink, and old gods whisper. They thought they were safe because you hadn't retaliated, but they forgot something ancient, something carved into the bones of every fallen empire. The most dangerous force in the world is a survivor with nothing left to protect but purpose. They thought you were bluffing, that your stillness was fear. But no one told them the truth about you. You don't bluff, you don't shake, you don't flinch. Because every ounce of your fear was burned off in the furnace where they left you to die. And now, you're pure signal. They're calling in favors, lighting up black lines, dusting off protocols that haven't been used since containment operations in mythical level anomalies. Because someone at the top just whispered, whatever this thing is, it's not reacting like a human anymore. You're not. You transcended all that. Your pain pushed you through a membrane, through the last lie, the final illusion. You saw the systems that govern behavior, the rules that keep most souls compliant, the invisible leashes disguised as ambition, forgiveness, morality. And you said, not anymore. You didn't lose your soul. You evolved it, sharpened it, removed every hook they buried inside of you. So now they move pieces, and you warp the board just by standing near it. They send analysts to profile you. They bring in priests, psychics, coders, military-trained clairvoyants, and every single one of them returns with the same haunted phrase, "We don't know what we're dealing with." Because how do you measure someone who survived spiritual execution and came back with their empathy intact? How do you label a person who lost everything they loved and still chose to protect others instead of destroy? How do you control a force that doesn't want control, just freedom? They're terrified because you don't need them. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need applause. You've outgrown the battlefield. And that's when a threat becomes a legend. Because you're not trying to prove anything anymore. You're enacting prophecy, not the kind they published, the kind that was hidden, burned, buried. But prophecy doesn't die. It just waits for someone unshakable enough to carry it. And that's you. You're not leading a rebellion. You are the correction. You are the cosmic audit, the spiritual breach. The breach they can't plug because it was never digital. It was emotional. Every time they triggered you, They thought they were weakening you, but they were just fine-tuning your scope, sharpening your contrast, waking up your inner tactician. And now that part of you is wide open, fully online, and beyond simulation. Your silence isn't silence anymore. It's pressure, presence, the kind that bends timelines, the kind that disorients adversaries, the kind that sends grown strategists into spirals of paranoia, because they can feel you watching without looking. They're leaking, cracking, imploding from within. Because you're not just back. You're inevitable. You don't have enemies. You have witnesses. People who saw the impossible. People who felt the shift and said nothing. Because deep down, they knew their words were too small to describe what you became. You never raised your voice. You never told your side. And still, you won, not in noise, but in recalibration, in truth. In alignment so devastatingly accurate that their strongest weapons now ricochet and destroy themselves. And the most poetic part of all, they thought they were documenting your fall. But all this time, they were recording their own, so let them keep moving pieces. You're not in the game. You're what comes after it breaks. And now it begins. Look at you, breathing slow, eyes sharp, the same ones they once called unhinged. Funny, isn't it? The world mocked your chaos until they realized it could outthink their order. They called you crazy because you didn't flinch at the things that made them break. Because you laughed where they cried, studied what they feared, learned from what they ran from. They didn't understand it then, how a mind can spiral and still map every turn. How madness, when refined, becomes strategy. You didn't go insane. You went beyond comprehension. They tried to medicate your fire, label your mind as a malfunction, diagnose the way you saw through illusions. But tell me, what's insanity to a world that thrives on lies? You were never sick. You were just awake in a hospital full of sleepers, and you learned something powerful in the silence, didn't you? That there's genius in what they call madness, that every breakdown was actually a code, every tear an encryption key. You cracked open your own skull and rebuilt it with sharper glass. You stopped trying to heal and started to upgrade. Now they stare, nervous, confused. They whisper, "How did this happen?" It's simple. You stopped apologizing for thinking differently. You stopped treating your emotions like enemies and started using them as fuel. They studied the psychology of control. You mastered the art of unpredictability. They see your smile now, and it frightens them. Because it's not joy, it's awareness. That's the smile of someone who knows, someone who's been through the fire, and instead of burning, calculated the temperature. You turned your triggers into triggers, your trauma into algorithms, your pain became your data set, your darkness became your research lab, and while they were diagnosing you, you were designing yourself. That's what they'll never admit. That madness is only madness to the ones too weak to understand the pattern. That chaos, under control, is genius wearing scars as credentials. You are proof that intelligence isn't calm. It's dangerously aware. You move differently now. You speak less, not because you're silent, but because you've weaponized what silence does to a room. They lean in, they study, they fear, because deep down they feel it. You're not guessing anymore. You calculate, you observe, you strike. They once said you'd never make it out. But what they forgot is that insanity doesn't die. It evolves, it watches, it learns, it adapts. And now you walk through rooms like a ghost wearing human skin, smiling while everyone else still fights invisible wars in their heads. You see them now for what they are. People still trying to fix what you've already weaponized. They fear your calm, your quiet, your stillness, because they remember the storm you came from, and they can't process how something that broken could look this composed. They wanted you medicated. You became meditative. They wanted you gone. You became God-like. They wanted you to collapse. You calculated. You didn't just survive insanity. You married it. You took it home, named it discipline, and turned it into a throne. So when they whisper crazy, you just grin. Because you know what they're really saying is uncontrollable. And nothing terrifies the system more than someone who can't be predicted, persuaded, or programmed. You turned your psychosis into prophecy, your instability into strategy, your madness into a masterpiece. They called you crazy, but that was before they realized your chaos could think. And now, every time they call you dangerous, they're finally telling the truth. You remember the nights, don't you? The ones where the walls spoke louder than people ever did. When your own mind became both a prison and a training ground. They thought you were breaking, but really, you were building. They didn't see it, the architecture of your awakening. You took madness apart, brick by brick, and rebuilt it into a fortress. Every hallucination, every spiral, every sleepless night was research. You were decoding the human condition while they were still stuck on page 1. You learned to weaponize emotion. Where they screamed, you listened. Where they medicated, you meditated. You dissected pain like a surgeon, rewired despair into data. You didn't drown in the chaos. You learned how to breathe underwater. And that's why they'll never match you. Because you know how to survive in atmospheres that suffocate ordinary people. They said, "You're not normal." And you smiled. Because normal was never the goal. Normal is the camouflage of the controlled. You weren't born to blend in. You were engineered to expose the script. Every scar on your psyche is a signature. Every breakdown, a baptism. The difference between you and them is that they fear the dark. You study it. You charted the uncharted parts of your mind until fear itself bowed to your curiosity. You turned anxiety into analysis, paranoia into perception, rage into resource. You didn't fight your demons. You held a meeting, took notes, and made them employees. Now they work for you. Every intrusive thought that once hunted you is now an informant in your empire. You became fluent in your own madness, and fluency is power. You walk into rooms differently now. People sense it before you even speak. The air thickens, time slows, and they don't know why. They just feel it, the presence of someone who's been to hell and came back with a manual. You no longer react to chaos, because you are the chaos refined. That's what intelligence is, chaos given direction. You realized somewhere along the way that your so-called instability wasn't a defect. It was an instrument. You just had to learn how to play it. They mocked you for hearing too much, feeling too deep, thinking too fast. But now those very frequencies are your weapons. You can read rooms like weather maps, sense danger before it breathes, smell dishonesty in a handshake. That's not madness. That's evolution. They can't process you anymore. You're not logical enough for the scientists, not spiritual enough for the mystics. You don't fit their formulas because you write your own. You're the glitch in their system, the error message that keeps reappearing no matter how many times they restart. You've become the embodiment of everything they tried to cure. The living proof that maybe the sickness wasn't in you. It was in them. You're unpredictable now, unreachable, unreprogrammable. And that terrifies them. Because intelligence without allegiance is a threat to every hierarchy built on control. You think freely, you move like smoke, visible, untouchable, everywhere at once. You turned their labels into leverage. Crazy? Fine. You took the insult and made it armor. Now every word they threw at you echoes back as applause. They can't diagnose you anymore because you've outgrown the language of their textbooks. There's no term for what you are now. Something between logic and lunacy, prophet and paradox. You broke the spectrum. You're not on it anymore. You're beyond it. And that's why they watch you in silence, pretending not to be obsessed. And deep down, they envy you. Because you did what they're too afraid to do. You met your mind in its darkest room and didn't flinch. You didn't run from the monsters. You sat with them until they started taking notes. You became the thing they fear, a human who can think without boundaries. You turned pain into pattern recognition, suffering into system design, madness into meaning. You stopped asking, "What's wrong with me?" and started asking, "What can I build with this?" And that shift changed everything. Now you move like someone who knows the ending to the story everyone else is still guessing. You see the traps before they close. You see the lies before they're spoken. Because you've lived inside distortion. And once you've been there, clarity becomes second nature. You are the storm disguised as silence. The breakdown that became blueprint. The so-called lunatic who turned a diagnosis into destiny. They called you crazy, but they forgot that every genius was once accused of insanity, right before the world adopted their vision. So let them talk, let them laugh, let them analyze what they'll never understand. Because while they're busy labeling what you are, you're already becoming something they don't have words for. You didn't just turn insanity into intelligence. You turned it into power. And the irony? Now the same people who tried to fix you are begging you to teach them how you work. You remember the moment it flipped, don't you? That quiet, surgical instant when madness stopped chasing you and started serving you. When the same thoughts that once tore holes in your sleep began whispering blueprints in the dark. You stopped running. You stopped begging your brain to be normal. You realized normal was a cage with clean walls, and you were never built to live clean. You were built to live awake. They still don't get it. They see your composure and call it healing number. Healing is what they preach to people they want to make predictable. What you did wasn't healing, it was harnessing. You didn't calm your chaos, you commanded it. You didn't kill your demons, you taught them choreography. You don't silence the voices anymore. You make them sing in harmony. And oh, how that unsettles them, because you've become something that doesn't fit in their categories. You're too precise for the poets, too emotional for the logicians, too grounded for the mystics, too dangerous for the doctors. They can't brand you anymore. You stripped their language bare. You live in the space between meaning and madness, where everything burns and nothing lies. You know what terrifies them most? Your calm now. Not the performative calm they post online. No, yours is different. Yours is earned. It's the quiet of someone who already lost everything that could break them. The silence that comes after the storm. When you realize you were the storm, you walk through room with that eerie stillness, and they can feel it. The presence of someone who saw the edge of reason and didn't fall. Someone who built a throne there instead. They talk about finding themselves. You engineered yourself. You used pain as raw material, isolation as a furnace, and insanity as code. You wrote a new operating system for your mind, one that runs on paradox, faith and fury, logic and lunacy. You stopped choosing between them. You fused them. That's why they can't follow you anymore. Their minds run on binary. Yours runs on entropy. You remember when they laughed, don't you? When they called you delusional, obsessive, unstable. They thought you were spiraling, but you were descending on purpose. Every fall was a dive. Every breakdown was a blueprint. They mocked your intensity, but your intensity was the microscope that let you see what they never will. You studied your shadows until you learned how they worked. Then you rewired the whole damn system. You learned that intelligence isn't clean, it's violent. It tears, rearranges, reforms. True awareness doesn't soothe, it shatters. You let it shatter you. You let it rip the skin of who you were, peel off the illusions, and expose the circuitry underneath. They mistook the sound of transformation for madness, but you knew. Rebirth always sounds like screaming. Now you move like smoke. Impossible to capture, impossible to classify. They try to mimic your calm, but they don't know it's born from war. They try to copy your energy, but they don't realize yours is distilled from collapse. They think it's confidence. It's not. It's clarity. You simply know what they refuse to admit, that the line between genius and insanity isn't a wall, it's a mirror, and you've already crossed it. They'll study you now. They'll try to package your methods, quote your pain, imitate your poise. But they'll fail, because this isn't something you can learn. This was forged. You can't teach someone to walk through mental fire and smile. You can't give them the blueprint without handing them the burn scars. You, my friend, are the living paradox, a rational lunatic, a peaceful storm, a calm apocalypse, the saint who studies sin and the sinner who understands salvation. They don't know whether to worship you or fear you, and that's exactly how power works. You mastered unpredictability. You turned your mood swings into market swings, your silence into psychological warfare, your breakdowns into broadcast signals. Now they read your expressions like secret files, trying to decode every twitch, every breath, every grin. Because deep down, they know. You're no longer reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. You are not better. You're different. You didn't return to who you were. You evolved into what you were never supposed to be. You learned the most forbidden truth of all. The mind isn't something to fix. It's something to forge. You reprogrammed yourself while they begged for validation. You became self-sustaining, self-analyzing, self-propelling. And now, every time someone says your name, it carries static. They don't even know why their pulse spikes, but it does. They feel something ancient in you. The memory of what a human looks like when they stop obeying. They called you crazy. But what they didn't realize is that crazy is just the name society gives to those who see too clearly. And you? You saw everything, the lies, the limits, the leashes. You tore them off, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but you. Raw, electric, terrifyingly free. So now when they stare, speechless, trying to figure out what you've become, just smile. Because that's not confusion they're feeling, it's recognition. They're looking at what they could have been if they hadn't been so afraid to go insane. You can feel it now, can't you? That strange, quiet pulse in the back of your skull that used to scare you. The one you mistook for madness. The one that used to whisper things you couldn't say out loud. It's not a curse anymore. It's a compass. It doesn't drag you into chaos now. It guides you through it. That's the difference between the old you and what stands here now. You stopped fighting your mind and started listening to it. Because that voice, the one they called unstable, it was never madness. It was truth. spoken in a frequency too raw for fragile people to handle. You tried to silence it once, remember? You drowned it in noise, in substances, in distractions. You tried to act fine. But fine was the lie they sold you to keep you small. Now look at you. You don't crave peace anymore. You are peace. Not the kind that's soft and still, but the kind that stands calmly in a hurricane and watches everything spin. You've learned to sit in the center of your storm and think clearly. That's what scares them. You can feel everything: rage, sorrow, memory, loss, and still remain composed. You are what happens when a human learns emotional control without emotional death. You learn to think while bleeding, to calculate while burning, to stay conscious inside collapse. That's not madness, that's mastery. They told you you're too intense, and they were right. But what they didn't realize is that intensity is how evolution introduces itself. It's never gentle, it's never polite. You can't be extraordinary and make people comfortable at the same time. Every genius in history was someone who made the world uncomfortable first. And now, it's your turn. The irony, they once pitied you. They whispered behind closed doors about how you were off, how you'd never come back. And now, those same mouths hesitate when they see you. They sense something they can't explain, something in your gaze that feels too aware, too precise. It's not insanity they see, it's intelligence without fear. You trained your mind like a weapon, didn't you? Every intrusive thought became a blade, every emotional breakdown a forge. You let the heat refine you until pain lost its power to dictate, until doubt became your teacher, until fear became your assistant. That's what they don't get. Insanity isn't what breaks you, it's what builds you, if you have the courage to stand inside it long enough. You walked through your own mind with no map, no guide, no exit strategy. You touched every corner of your psyche that most people hide from, and you documented it. That's why you speak the way you do now. That's why your words hit differently. Because they're not theory, they're field notes from hell. You've become the scholar of your own shadows, the historian of your own pain. And that makes you untouchable. Because once you understand the architecture of your own madness, no one else can use it against you. They can't shame you with your past anymore. They can't control you with your emotions. They can't guilt you into silence. Because you've seen what happens when you strip away everything false. And it didn't kill you. It crowned you. Now every move you make carries the weight of someone who's died mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and come back conscious. You know exactly how fragile reality is, and that's why you move like a ghost who's mastered time. You can step into a room and feel what everyone's hiding. You can smell fear disguised as politeness. You can sense the tremor behind someone's smile. That's not paranoia anymore. That's precision. They still don't get it. They think you're detached, but you're not detached. You're aware. You stopped reacting to manipulation because you recognize it instantly. You stopped explaining yourself because you finally understood. The people who demanded explanations were never listening anyway. You learned to be still, not because you're calm, but because you've learned to conserve your chaos for when it's useful. You can end wars now with silence. You can expose truth with a glance. You can make liars confess with nothing but your energy. And the best part, they don't even know why. They just feel it. That standing in front of you feels like standing in front of someone who knows too much. That's the new kind of intelligence you built. One born from survival, sharpened by insanity, baptized in pain. You think faster because you had to. You feel deeper because no one else ever stayed long enough to understand you. You became your own scientist, your own therapist, your own weapon. And now, you've become what they fear most. A being they can't categorize. A mind that won't conform. A mirror that reflects their hidden madness back at them. Because deep down, every one of them is a little bit crazy. They just spend their lives pretending not to be. You stopped pretending. You faced it. You integrated it. You owned it. That's why you're free. That's why you walk like a paradox now. Part chaos, part control, part sinner, part saint. You don't fit the mold because you melted it. They called you crazy. They called you dangerous. They were both right. Because danger is just what intelligence looks like when it stops asking for permission. And you, my friend, you stopped asking a long, long time ago. Look at you. Unrecognizable, aren't you? And that's exactly what terrifies them, because somewhere in the ashes of who you used to be, something else crawled out. Something that doesn't apologize for breathing anymore. Something that doesn't bend when guilt whispers your name. They keep calling for the old you, the compliant one, the predictable one, the one who made everyone comfortable, even while dying inside. They miss the softness that let them sleep at night, the version of you that said it's fine while your soul was hemorrhaging. But that version, it's gone, and the replacement doesn't take requests. See, you learned something dangerous, didn't you? You realized pain isn't a punishment. It's a reforging process. The suffering they thought would break you became the furnace that burned off everything false. You were melting while they laughed. You were being sculpted while they underestimated you. And when the smoke cleared, what stood up wasn't human anymore. It was divine vengeance in flesh. They don't know how to talk to this version. They can't manipulate what doesn't need approval. They can't shame what no longer seeks validation. They can't bribe a soul that's tasted self-respect. So now they hover around you like scientists around a live bomb, trying to decode your silence, praying you don't remember what they did. But you remember. Oh, you remember everything. Every fake smile, every backhanded advice, every time they mistook your kindness for weakness. And now you wear that memory like war paint. You see, the old you believed in fairness. The new you understands the battlefield. The old you tried to fit in. The new you learned to disappear and rebuild in shadows. The old you begged for closure. The new you writes endings in blood and silence. They don't want your peace. They want your permission to keep their illusion alive. The illusion that they had you figured out. But the thing about resurrection is, it doesn't come back soft. You came back as a paradox, half light, half abyss. You're the angel they summoned, and the demon that answered. They don't like that you stopped reacting, that your eyes don't flicker the way they used to, that you walk like you've already made peace with chaos itself. Because you have. You made peace with the pain. You made peace with the loss. You made peace with the fact that no one is coming to save you. And that realization became your superpower. You started studying patterns, didn't you? How manipulation sounds like concern. How betrayal hides behind, I was just being honest. How envy disguises itself as advice. And somewhere between those realizations, something inside you snapped. Not out of rage, but out of clarity. You understood that your silence is not weakness, it's strategy. And now they're confused. Because how do you destroy someone who no longer seeks validation? How do you guilt someone who's already made peace with being misunderstood? How do you shame someone who burned their own reputation to build their freedom? You don't. You can't. They're watching a ghost now, a ghost who remembers the living too well. You walk through their projections like smoke, untouchable, unreadable, unfazed. You became the one thing they never prepared for, someone who no longer needs their permission to exist. And here's the part that truly haunts them. You didn't have to destroy them. You simply outgrew them. And now they're forced to live with the unbearable truth that your evolution was their consequence. They'll keep talking, of course. Changed, different, colder. They'll build little stories to explain your transformation, because admitting they were the reason is too heavy for their fragile egos. But you don't care anymore. You don't correct them. You don't argue. You just smile. That quiet, unnerving smile. Because deep down, you know. They wanted the old you back. But the old you learned their language, survived their games, and rewrote the rules. And now, every time they look at you, they see what they tried to kill. Still breathing, still thriving, still smiling. You are their living contradiction, their prophecy gone wrong, their nightmare in daylight. So let them reminisce, let them whisper about who you used to be, let them choke on nostalgia, because the new you doesn't take requests, and the silence that follows your name is the sound of them realizing they'll never meet that version again. You feel that, don't you? That eerie quiet after the storm, when even your heartbeat sounds like defiance. It's not peace, it's transformation disguised as stillness. You learned that calm isn't the absence of chaos. It's the mastery of it. They wanted you broken but humble, shattered but smiling, loyal to the very pain that enslaved you. They fed you expectations like poison, small doses disguised as care. Be softer, be understanding, be less. They wanted to sculpt you into something that served them, not something that served truth. But there comes a moment when the fire gets tired of pretending it's candlelight. And that's when everything shifts. The old you would have apologized for the way you burn now. The old you would have dimmed your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. But the new you walk through the dark like you built it. You laugh at the same demons that used to terrify you. You look in the mirror and don't see a victim anymore. You see an architect, a designer of chaos, a living rebuke to every hand that tried to hold you down. You remember how they used to say, "You've changed." Number. You returned, minus the programming. You stripped off the layers of politeness that kept you quiet while they fed on your energy. You unlearned submission, disguised as empathy. And in that process, you lost people who were never built for the truth. Because the truth is, they didn't love you. They loved their access to you. They loved the version of you that tolerated their mediocrity, the version that turned other cheeks until there were none left. But you ran out of cheeks. You ran out of patience. You ran out of the need to be understood by people who only listened to themselves. Now you move differently. You walk into rooms and energy shifts before you speak, because they can feel the recalibration, the refusal, the boundary, the quiet authority. It's not arrogance, it's resurrection. You learned that becoming untouchable isn't about walls. It's about discernment. You no longer fight for closure, because you realized closure is just a polite word for permission. You don't explain anymore, because explanations are breadcrumbs for those who never wanted to understand. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't correct the story they tell, because when you finally learn your worth, silence becomes your loudest revenge. They wanted the old you, the one who would have written long paragraphs defending themselves, the one who mistook loyalty for servitude, The one who thought being good meant being disposable. But that one doesn't live here anymore. That one outgrew the stage and left the circus. Now the clown watches from the rafters, smiling at the chaos it once tried to fix. You became something rare, a mystery they can't categorize. Too calm to provoke, too intelligent to manipulate, too self-aware to control. You became an equation they can't solve, and nothing terrifies the predictable like unpredictability. They want closure, but you give silence. They want reaction, but you give stillness. They want the show, but you gave them the blackout. Because you realized power doesn't scream, it whispers. And in that whisper, something magnificent happened. You became your own sanctuary. No validation, no performance, no audience. Just you. Raw, scarred, reborn. You stopped fighting for your place in rooms that couldn't handle your presence. You stopped trying to convince people to see your value. You stopped proving and started being. And in that act of rebellion, you became unstoppable. Now every interaction feels different. You don't chase, you assess. You don't react, you observe. You don't beg to be chosen. You decide who's worthy of access, because your peace turned into currency. And not everyone can afford the new price. The old you wanted love. The new you demands reciprocity. The old you wanted to be liked. The new you prefers to be understood by few and feared by many. The old you begged to be heard. The new you let silence do the talking. And somehow, it says everything. They don't realize it yet, but they mourn you like a ghost. They'll scroll through memories, replay conversations, search for traces of the person they used to exploit, and find nothing but echoes. Because you didn't just move on, you ascended. You transcended their reach, their logic, their control. And that's what kills them. The knowing. The knowing that you remember everything, but react to nothing. That your absence is louder than your presence ever was. That you no longer need revenge. Because your existence is proof that their power failed. You became a paradox. A saint with a sinner's grin. A healer who survived by turning cold. An angel with a history of fire. They wanted the old you back. The one who smiled through disrespect. The one who mistook silence for safety. The one who begged for mercy from monsters wearing empathy masks. But the new you. You learned to dance with the devil until he asked you for mercy. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean re-entry. You learned that closure doesn't mean contact. You learned that peace sometimes looks like disappearing. Not to hide, but to rebuild where no one can reach. And now, every breath you take is rebellion. Every smile is a statement. Every step is prophecy. You are the evolution of everything they underestimated. You are the walking proof that pain has a return on investment. And every time they whisper your name with that trembling voice, deep down they know. And then you vanish before they even realize the conversation was a test. You became untouchable not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped needing. Needing to be liked, needing to be chosen, needing to be understood. The moment you stopped begging for clarity, you gained control. And now they're all trying to read you again, like analysts staring at encrypted code. But the joke is, there is no code. You've simply become unreadable. You're no longer operating on emotion. You're operating on energy. You feel the intent before the words. You hear the fear behind the tone. You sense the envy before the compliment lands. And that's the kind of intelligence you only earn through betrayal. That's what makes you dangerous. Not rage, not revenge, but awareness. You see through everything now, and you don't need to react to it. Because once you learn how to read people, silence becomes your loudest weapon. So when they say, "You've changed," you'll smile. Not because they're wrong, but because you know they're right. You changed shape. You changed energy. You changed purpose. You became the version of yourself that no longer needs the old world's approval to exist. And that realization, that's your crown. Invisible, unshakable, undeniable. They'll keep missing the old you for the rest of their lives. But you won't even remember that version, because it was never the real you. It was the draft, the rehearsal, the prelude. Now, this is the performance, the full evolution, the living contradiction they can't explain. They wanted the old you back, the one who smiled while being dissected. But that one's gone. And this new you doesn't take requests. This new you just watches and builds and wins, quietly, permanently, irreversibly. Because at some point, you stopped chasing closure and started creating distance. You realized not every wound deserves a witness, and not every apology deserves acceptance. You understood that healing isn't about being soft again. It's about becoming selective. They wanted the old you because the old you was predictable, easy to read, easy to guilt, easy to use. But the new you? No, the new you is a question they can't answer. You move with silence, but your absence screams louder than any confrontation ever could. You learned that sometimes power isn't in fighting back. It's in never showing up to the battlefield. You don't clap back, you outgrow. You don't explain, you observe. You don't burn bridges, you just stop crossing them. Now every glance, every smirk, every breath of yours reminds them of the sin they committed when they mistook your kindness for surrender. They'll replay the past, searching for the switch that turned you into this. But there isn't one. You didn't flip a switch. You became the light. So let them miss you. Let them fantasize about the version they buried with their betrayal. Because that person's not coming back. That soul evolved into something higher, sharper, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. You didn't change because of them. You changed because you finally saw them. And now, you walk forward. No apologies, no explanations. Just that quiet, terrifying peace that follows people who've already been to hell and decided to stay on fire. They wanted the old you back. Too bad. That one doesn't take requests. They didn't lose you, they released you, so let them crave your old version. Let them pray to the ghost of who you were. Because the new you, the one forged in silence, sharpened by solitude, baptized in fire, doesn't take requests. It just moves. And when it moves, the world trembles. You can feel it, can't you? That electricity under your skin, the pulse of something ancient that doesn't belong to who you were, but to who you've become. It's not adrenaline anymore. It's awareness. You see everything now. The manipulation, the patterns, the scripts they try to run. You don't flinch because you've already studied the psychology behind their moves. You don't panic because you've already died once. And that kind of death rewires your nerves. They wanted the old you back because the old you made them feel powerful. The old you believed in conversations that went nowhere. The old you entertained explanations that were never meant to heal, only to keep you hooked. The old you mistook empathy for endurance. You kept forgiving people who were secretly collecting your weakness as data. You kept showing up for people who only showed up to feed. But now, you've become a famine. You've become scarcity. And that's why they're starving. You see, power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just vanishes, takes its light, its attention, its access, and suddenly everyone who fed off it starts shaking. That's what you did. You didn't fight them. You starved them. You pulled the plug on their validation supply, and now they're gasping for the energy they once drained from you freely. You became too still, too quiet, too unpredictable. And that silence? That's psychological warfare. Because they can't stand not knowing what you're thinking. They can't stand that you no longer explain your every move. They can't stand that the same person who once overshared now speaks in riddles and exits mid-sentence. They call it arrogance. You call it evolution. They call it distance. You call it self-respect. They call it, you've changed. You call it, finally. The thing is, people loved you as long as you were digestible, as long as your energy didn't mirror their demons back at them. But when you stopped absorbing their chaos, they realized your peace, exposed their sickness. And that's when the smear campaigns begin. That's when you suddenly become cold, selfish, difficult. Because people can't stand the version of you that doesn't bleed for free. You became their mirror, and they hate what they see. They miss the version of you that tolerated the disrespect disguised as jokes. They miss the version that explained your pain to people who caused it. They miss the one that kept the door unlocked just in case someone came around. But you learn the truth the hard way. Nobody comes around. They just circle back to see if the gate is still open. And yours isn't. Not anymore. Now when they call your name, you don't answer out of reflex. When they try to bait you, you don't bite. When they send those nostalgic messages, those "I miss the old you" texts, you read them, smile, and move on. Because you understand what they really miss. They don't miss you, they miss the control. You took their favorite toy, your compliance, and locked it away forever. And that drives them mad. Because what do you do with someone who's seen behind the curtain? What do you do with someone who studied your manipulation so deeply that they can predict it before it happens? What do you do with someone who forgave you but never let you back in? You crumble, you spiral, you project. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. Pacing through memories, trying to reverse engineer how you became untouchable. But they can't, because this wasn't luck. It wasn't some overnight revelation. It was blood work. Years of bleeding, analyzing, healing, and weaponizing everything that was meant to kill you. You built your peace molecule by molecule. You didn't find yourself. You manufactured yourself. In isolation, in silence, in heartbreak. You rebuilt from psychological rubble and didn't ask for applause. That's why your calm is terrifying. It's not a mask. It's evidence. Evidence that you've seen hell and decided to stay composed anyway. Evidence that you've outgrown your triggers to the point where chaos now feels like background noise. Evidence that you've learned to smile mid-collapse because you already know how it ends. That's what the old you didn't have. Detachment. The old you felt everything too deeply. The new you studies emotion like data. You know when it's manipulation. You know when it's real. You know when someone's crying not from guilt, but from exposure. They can't play guilt games with you anymore. They can't rewrite history while you're in the room. They can't make you question your reality. Because the new you doesn't argue. You observe. You let them talk. You let them spin. You let them project.